Good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to this fourth lecture of this module. The title of today's lecture is Sealed Source Applications in Industry. Before I start the lecture, let us recap whatever I have discussed in the previous lectures. As I told you that application of radioisotope and radiation technology are mainly categorized into three categories: agriculture, healthcare, industry, and hydrology. And then we discussed in the first lecture, we discussed the radio tracer applications in industry. In second lecture, we discussed radio tracer in hydrology. In third lecture, we discussed application of environmental isotope techniques in hydrology. And now it is the fourth lectures today. So far we discussed the radio tracer applications, but now in the subsequent two lectures, I will be discussing the sealed source applications. So first lecture is sealed source applications in industry. Before I discuss the details, let us see what are the sealed sources which are used in industry. As I told you in the first lecture, the sealed sources are those radiation sources in which the radioactive material is contained inside a sealed container in the form of a metal or a capsule or in the wire, and the radioactive material never comes directly in contact with the environment. Only that beam of the radiation is emitted from the source, and we utilize that beam for the various applications. Now the sealed sources which emits the various radiations are gamma radiation sources, the beta radiation sources, neutron sources, and sources of electrons and X-rays, and they are produced from the machines like X-ray machines or electron beam accelerators. The electrons are produced. So these are some of the very commonly used sealed radioisotope sources which are used in industry. Cobalt-60 is the most valuable and widely used sealed radioisotope. It has a half-life of 5.2 years. Then cesium-137, which has a half-life of 30.2 years. Then iridium-92 having half-life of 74 days. Cobalt-57 having half-life of 270 days. Selenium-75 having half-life of 120 days. Fe-55 having half-life of 2.7 years. Americium-241. Similarly, there are beta sources like strontium-90, krypton-85, promethium-147, and nickel-63. These are their half-lives here. Then there are the neutron sources. Americium beryllium, which is a very commonly used neutron source, having half-life of 432 years. Then polonium beryllium having half-life of 2.6 years. And then there is another neutron source which is called californium-252. So these are the sealed radiation sources which are used in sealed radioisotope sources which are used in industry. And in addition to these, the electrons are produced from the electron beams. And similarly, the X-rays are produced from the X-ray machine. So these are called the machine sources. And you can see that these sources you can make in the different forms. They can be in the form of a cylinder, in the form of a rod, in the form of a wire, in the form of a capsule. Depending upon the application, you can you can fabricate the different kind of sources. Now, before discussing the applications, let me discuss with you the principle of seal source application. And I'm sure that in the Dr. Reddy or someone might have discussed what are the interaction of radiation with matter. All the radiations, all the gamma radiations, when they fall on any object or on its material, they interact with the matter in three different ways. That is a photoelectric effect, Compton effect, and pair production. And they lose energy by these three processes, and eventually they get attenuated. You can see here object here which has a thickness x. It has a mass absorption coefficient mu and having the density rho. And if a collimated beam, a narrow beam of gamma radiation falls on this object, and on the other side, in the same plane, on the other side of the object, we have a collimated detector. This collimated detector will measure the intensity of the transmitted radiation. Now, this transmission or attenuation of gamma rays, they follow this law, which is called I is equal to I0 e to the power minus rho mu x. Rho is the mass absorption coefficient, that is the absorption of coefficient per unit mass of the material. Rho is the density and x is the thickness. So if you increase the thickness of the material here, then this follows this exponential law of exponentially decaying law. And this law is also sometimes called Beer-Lambert law. Here in this law, you can say that I is the intensity of the transmitted radiation. I0 is the intensity of the gamma rays which is falling on the incident plane of the object. Mass mu is mass absorption coefficient, rho density, and x is the thickness. So if you can see that if you have the two objects, one of the higher density and other of the lower density, so you can see that the intensity of the transmitted radiation will be higher in case of the lower density of the material. So most of the gamma ray seal source techniques, seal source applications in industry which are carried out or which has the application in industry, they all are based on this law of attenuation of radiation by matter. You can see that this is the linear absorption coefficient, how the linear absorption coefficient varies with this energy of the gamma radiation. You can see that this follows like this. Here, this is the how this linear attenuation coefficient varies for the Compton effect, for the photoelectric effect, and for the pair production. Yeah, I will not go into the details because you might have been already told about these things and you may be knowing about it. You can see that different material will have the different mass absorption coefficient. You can see that this is the mass absorption coefficient, variation of mass absorption coefficient with the energy of the gamma radiation. This is for the water, this is for the concrete here, for iron, for the lead. So now the interaction of gamma radiation with material is different, and interaction of neutrons with the matter is different. You see, gamma radiation interact with the material by three different processes. That is photoelectric effect, there is a Compton effect, and then there is a pair production. But the neutrons do not interact that way. Their interaction with the matter is different. These neutrons basically they interact with the atomic nucleus. They collide with the nucleus, atomic nucleus, and after collision there is a scattering. It may be either elastic scattering or inelastic scattering, and this attenuation of neutrons by material also follows the exponentially decaying law, exponential law of attenuation. This is called I is equal to I0 e to the power here sigma total n. Here I is the intensity of, again, intensity of transmitted neutrons. I0 is the intensity of the neutrons falling on the incident surface, and n is the number of absorber atoms per unit volume, which is also called the atomic density. And this sigma is called microscopic cross section of the absorber, which has the dimensions of area, which is a centimeter square, and here T is the thickness of this object. So actually they follow the similar law as the gamma radiation. Now let us briefly discuss the interaction of charged particles, how the charged particles interact with the matter and how they lose their energy. Now charged particles like alpha, beta, gamma, or ions or fission products, they all are directly ionizing radiation, and they interact with matter primarily through long-range electromagnetic force, or also called the Coulombian force, mainly because of this Coulombian force. So there are 4 different processes in which the charged particle may lose their energy while interacting with the matter. That is Coulomb interaction with the electrons and the nuclei, emission of electromagnetic radiation, which are also called Bremsstrahlung radiation, that's Bremsstrahlung X-rays, and then nuclear interaction and emission of Cherenkov radiation. So these are the main 4 different type of processes by which the charged particle lose their energy while traveling through matter or any object. And you see that they have these charged particles, they have the definite range within the absorbent material. You can see the heavy charged particle will have a range like this. They penetrate through the matter like this, and you can see this at this point where the N0 is this initial charged particle, and when it is half of the charged particle, at corresponding to that, this is called the range of these heavy charged particles. The same way, this is the beta particle, how they travel within the object. Now, this was a brief discussion about how the radiations interact with the matter. And all the sealed source applications are based on the interaction of radiation with the material. That is the attenuation of the radiation, how the radiation gets attenuated, and then they are. Now, sealed source applications in industry are mainly categorized in 5 different categories. First category of application is called the radiometry or the densitometry. Sometimes this is also called gamma scanning or scanning. Then another sealed source category sealed source technique is the radiography. Then tomography. Then the nucleonic gases and radiation processing applications. So in this lecture, I will be discussing with you about these 4 different techniques. Briefly, I will discuss them with some specific case studies on these techniques. And then in the next lecture, which will be the last lecture, I will discuss you about the radiation processing, as the radiation processing itself is a very big area of application of the sealed radioisotope and machine sources. So now let us discuss these techniques, these 4 techniques. You can see that radiometry, which is also called the densitometry, first technique, also called sometimes the radiometric scanning. Now, this technique is very commonly used to identify or to detect the blockages in the pipeline. You might have seen in the industry, there are everywhere in the industry there are pipeline for transportation of this material. Okay, and what happens? Uh, some pipelines is buried. In the buried pipelines, we cannot use this technique. But the pipelines which are overground, if there is a blockage in those pipelines, that blockage actually cause a lot of problems in the operation of this industry. So the blockage has to be identified and it needs to be skilled. And radioisotope techniques, a radiometric technique is very commonly used for detection of blockages in pipelines. How it is done? Generally, it is an adjustable pipe scanner is made. It is a very simple device. You can see here, it has two arms. In one arm, there is a source, which is collimated inside a lead collimator. It is housed, the source, radiation source is housed inside this collimator. And this collimator has a very narrow opening, about 3 to 4 mm. And the radiation beams will be projecting out of that opening. And on the other arm, you can see there is a radiation detector. So this is called the adjustable pipe scanner. You can scan using this scanner. One can scan the pipeline in the axial direction, and at a particular location where you feel that there could be a very high blockage, or you want to really see the blockage in detail, one can scan it in the angular way. At the different angles, one can scan it. Now, if you see here a graph here, you can see that when the pipeline is very clean, and it is scanned at different angular directions, you will find that it will, at all the angles, it will have the same intensity because the pipe is clean and there is no blockage. But let us say that a pipe here which is uniformly, there is a scaling inside the pipeline. Scaling has taken place. Generally, when the crude oil or any organic fluids are transported through the pipeline, there is a scaling of the material. That is, wax gets deposited on the inner surface. And in those cases, again, this kind of scanner is used to identify what is the extent of the scaling. And if you see that if there is a uniform scaling, then the scan will look like this. But let us say that there is a non-uniform scanning and there are non-uniform deposition or scaling. There is only, let us say, there is only at the bottom there is a scaling. And if you scan it at an angular, in the angular direction, and if you scan it, this will be the scan. You can see that at 90 degree, when it is here, source and detector are here. You can see here, there will be sudden dip in the intensity of this radiation. So that way one can find out at which angular position there is a blockage. And this technique is in most of the refineries, they have the radiographic department, and they also have this kind of scanner in some refineries, and they routinely carry out this kind of scanning. Sometimes they also call the BRIT or BRC people for scanning if there is some specific or some problem which they cannot, in which situation they cannot identify. So this is a very simple and common example of a radiometry or densitometry technique. Another example of radiometric technique is gamma scanning of process column. You can see in the industry, you might have seen that wherever you go in the industry, you might have, you will see this kind of columns in industry. Very tall column having the height of 80 meter, 100 meter, 150 meters, very tall process column. They have some internals. They are in some cases there are trays inside that. There are some beds are there, and a different kind of mechanical structures are there inside it. And the process fluid flows from top to bottom, or in some cases from bottom to top. So during the operation of these towers, there is often they malfunction. Some trouble happens. So here in this case, again, the radiometric scanning or a gamma scanning technique of this process column is carried out. How it is carried out? We take a source and detectors. They are hanged from the top of the column, and they are first aligned in the same plane, and then they are lowered down. Synchronously, they are lowered down, and a density profile is generated. A radiation, that is this here, you can see that this is the transmitted radiation intensity, and this is the height of the column. And from this density profile, one can find out whether there is a inside the column, whether there is flooding taking place, or the trays are fallen down, or trays are at their original location, liquid level on trays and packed column, location and severity of entrainment, liquid level in downcomers, presence of liquid weeping, location and density characteristic of foaming, because in some cases some foaming takes place. So also one can identify whether some foaming is taking place inside the column. And position of the packed bed, integrity of the mist eliminator. There are many kind of internals. So to check the integrity and their position, one can use this gamma scanning. And almost every country of the world, even the small countries like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, they all have this kind of scanning arrangements with them. And this is very popular techniques in industry, and it has been, it's very popular, and it is regularly carried out in industry. Now you can see these are the radiation sources and equipment which are used for the scanning. Here is the cobalt 60, cesium 137, iridium 92. These three sources are mainly used for the column scanning. And you can see here, this is the transport container. Inside the transport container, there is a collimator here, and the source is inside this collimator. And this transport container is generally used for the transporting this cobalt 660 to the site, and then it is used. And nowadays, actually, in a few years back, we used to do column scanning manually, but nowadays there are automatic column scanner. Means there are all motorized system. You just fix the source and detector in one plane, diametrically opposite to the column, and then just simply switch on the motor. This motor will move the source and detector up and down on this column, and density profile can be generated at any time, and engineers can interpret that that density profile and see at what has gone wrong within the column. You can see this is a typical source collimator. This is the detector. We had carried out one gamma scanning in one of the column here, and this is the normal scan. This is the normal scan. You can see that it has a very nice pattern here. It means everything is intact inside the column. All the trays are at their respective position. There is no flooding, no malfunctioning inside. But the company increased the flow rate of the liquid, actually the process material, because they wanted to step up the production. And after stepping up of the production, some malfunctioning took place because the quality of the product was not up to the mark. So they asked us to carry out the column scanning, and we did the column scanning, and we found that there was a flooding taking place at the bottom of the column. You can see here now there is a disturbance in this regular pattern. So here you can see that here in the bottom of the column there was a flooding taking place. So this is how one can identify the various kind of problems using this gamma scanning technique. Now let us discuss the another category of applications, which is called the radiography technique or radiography. And this is basically used for the safety assessment and quality control. Radiography is nothing but it is an NDT method that utilizes X-rays and gamma radiation to detect the discontinuities, flaws, defects in materials, and to obtain these images on a film or any recording medium. So you can see here the principle of the radiography technique. You have a radiation source here, and you have an object here which has a discontinuity at the as they have there is a less thickness of the material, and in the center there is a higher thickness of the material. So this is the object. Now if radiation source is this object is exposed with this radiation, mainly it is a cobalt 60 or iridium 192 for the thick object, and you can see that on the other side one radiographic film is mounted, and when this is exposed for a sufficiently longer period of time, and then that film is taken, it is developed, and you can find that the optical density, different optical densities on the film. You can see at the corner when there was nothing available here, there was no object here. You can see that the intensity, this portion of the film was totally blackened. Here there was a thickness, so there was it was less blackened. It means the less radiation reached to the film. In the middle, if you see that there was again the film was not totally blackened. It was lesser blackened, and this indicated that here it is the less exposure. Here it is a higher exposure, and here it means here it is the maximum exposure. And you can see that there is some spot on this film. Actually, this spot is nothing but this is a void. It means inside this object there was a void which was used, which was reflected on this photographic plate after the development. So this is a procedure how, and this radiography is carried out in a very close enclosure, because the activity of the source is here it is of the order of some curies, or 50 or 50 to 100 curies in some cases, depending upon the job. It is of the order of curies, and this everything is carried out in a close enclosures where there is no access of any human being. And radiography technique is used for the flaw detection and the evaluation, quality control of welds, casting and assemblies, location and size of flaw, dimensional measurement, inspection for in-service damage, inspection of raw products and screening of the material, verification of the different parts of an assembly. You have any mechanical assembly, and if one is suspecting that some parts are missing, one can take a radiograph and verify. Inspection of pressure vessels. It is very important to examine the process vessels when they are before they are put into actual operation. They need to be radiographed. Each joint and welds in a high pressure vessel needs to be radiographed, and this radiography service is a mandatory service actually in the process industry. Any joint, any welding joints, anything, it has to be mandatorily, it has to be radiographed. So radiography technique is mandatory in such cases. Now you can see that for the radiography, we use the cobalt 60 source again, which is used for the radiometric scanning, and iridium 192 is also used, and cesium 137. These are the three commonly used radiation sources in the radiography services. And also X-rays and X-rays from the generator or machines are also used for the radiographic inspection. You can see that this is a radiographic, this is the X-rays machine here. X-rays are generated from this X-ray tubes, and then those X-rays are used for the inspection. These are the exposure devices, also called the gamma exposure cameras. Actually, they are not camera, but they are also called radiographic camera. You can see this is the Indian radiographic camera. It is designed and manufactured by Board of Radiation and Isotope Technology. These two are the imported radiography camera. You can see here some of the images, radiographic images. You see that if you have a torch and if you take a radiograph of that torch, the image on the image on a photographic film will be on a X-ray film will be like this. Here it is a very less exposure because there will be high density material in this section of the torch, and here it is the film is blackened more, so there will be more transmission of the radiation, and more film will be more black. And now similarly, in case of you have a calculator, and if you want to see inside how it looks like and how the circuit is, so one can also take a radiography of the film. These are just, I'm showing you a few of example. If you have an orange here, and if you take the radiograph, it will look like this. You can see that in the center, it is almost white. It is a white actually. There is nothing in between. There is no material. There is no juice actually here in the center. It is almost white. So you can see that more radiations are passing from will pass through this area, and there will be more blackening of the radiographic film. And you can see that how even this discontinuities on the periphery of this orange can also be detected. So this is a radiography. It's just like an X-ray. If when there is a fracture in our leg or hand, so we go to the hospital, so the doctor takes the X-rays and then confirms whether the bone is broken or not. In the same way, in the industry, this kind of radiography are routinely carried out. Actually, there are more than 500 private radiography companies in India. Those companies, they provide radiographic services on routine basis, and there are about 3,000 gamma cameras and about 550 X-ray machines which are being used for the radiography purposes in Indian industry. Maybe this figure is little a few years old. Maybe there will be more radiographic camera and more X-ray machines. This is not the updated information. This is, I think, a 3 years old information. Gamma emitting radiation sources and radiography equipments are supplied by BRIT or BRC. All this cobalt 60 or iridium 192 or cesium 137, all these radioisotope sources are produced in BRC, and they are supplied to the industry by the BRIT, which is called the Board of Radiation and Isotope Technology, which is a sister organization of BRC. It's a commercial organization who does all the commercial operations. Now, the training and certification is provided by BRC and many other private organizations like ISNT. And there are more than, BRC alone has trained more than 12,000 people from the industry, who now they have the license. They have the license to perform the radiography in the industry. And some of these trained people, they have started their own companies. So BRC trains them, and then they obtain the license to carry out the radiographic services and procure the radiation source from the grid. They have to take a license from the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, which is a regulatory body. So now let us discuss another technique of another application of sealed radioisotope sources, that is called the industrial tomography. You may be knowing about the medical CT. Everybody is aware of the medical CT. In the same way, this computer tomography is also carried out in industry. Actually, computer tomography is a real-time inspection and imaging technique which is used to obtain the cross-sectional density profile or image of any object. You see, using the radiography technique, you can get only there is a flaw inside the material, or there is a discontinuity, or there is a problem. But at what location or what cross-section of that object it is located, that from the radiography we cannot identify or we cannot tell. But from the CT, one can find out at what cross-section of the material there is a discontinuity, or there is a flaw, or there is a there is a fracture, or there is any sort of void is there. So you can see here, this is a schematic representation of tomographic technique here. You can see here you have a X-ray machine, or it may be X-ray machine, or it may be a radioisotope source here, and the beam is collimated. Here you have the collimated. Here there is a collimator here, and from this collimator a fan beam. It is a fan beam collimator. A fan beam of X-ray falls on the object. Actually, this is here. This is the manipulator, and on the manipulator there is an object. So this manipulator actually rotates this object here, and at the different angular positions, different cross-sectional profiles are obtained, and using a software one can then reconstruct an image of the object. So this is a two-dimensional cross-sectional density profile of the object here. And here the detector is it is an array of detector here, and this manipulator rotates like this, and one can scan the entire object and then construct this image. And then at the different cross sections, the different tomographs are taken, and from those tomographs one can actually get a three-dimensional picture of the object. So then one can really see, one can really reconstruct a three-dimensional image of the object. So here you can see here, these are the some of the maybe inside any object. These are the high density material here, and the same thing are seen here. Now let us see, actually from the two-dimensional images are combined to obtain a three-dimensional image like this. Now in BRC, we have developed two different tomographic systems. One is based on the cesium-137 source. Cesium-137 source is a gamma emitting source, and you can see that the source is housed inside this shielding, and the beam comes out from a small aperture on the collimator here, and this is a manipulator here. It's a manipulator which is used to mount the different object, and then here you have a scintillation detector, and this manipulator rotates this object here, and at this different angular positions the projections are obtained and then image is reconstructed. So this is a radioisotope source based tomographic imaging system, and here you can see that in this photograph there is a X-ray based tomographic imaging system, and these all systems are for NDT application. They are not meant for the medical application. This is only for the NDT applications, non-destructive testing applications. But the principle of the medical tomography and the principle of the industrial tomography, it is almost the same. Here you can see that here the X-ray machine is used for producing the X-ray, and those X-rays are also used for the scanning. Here you can see that this is a flat panel detector. Here you can see here this is the manipulator and this is the object here. One can mount the object on this manipulator, and this manipulator will rotate, and then it can be scanned, and then again the tomographic image can be produced. You can see here some of the typical tomographs. You can see here there is a container here which is filled with some pipes, and then it is half filled with the water actually. And if you take a digital radiograph of this object, it will look like this. At the cross section A, you can see it is only the water is only seen, because water is there is a high density material. So here it is the film is more blackened here, and then you can see here these are the pipes here. So these at the cross section B, you can see these pipes here. But if you take a tomograph at these two different cross section, one can see how these pipes are distributed across the cross section of this container. Now you can see that at the bottom, that is at the location A, these are the pipes, how they are spread or they are lying inside this container. Same way at the cross section B, you can see that these are this oblique circles here. They are nothing but they are the pipes here, these pipes. So like that, one can take the tomograph of any object to see inside the structure of the container. This is a tomographic system which has been developed for the process, for investigating the process. Like, and that is why it is called the process tomography of packed bed catalytic column. So in industry, you can see this kind of packed bed are very commonly used, and this is of course not an industrial plant. This is a small setup in the laboratory, and in this you can see here this is a distributor which is mounted on the bottom, so on the top of this column, and the water is distributed. Now, one of the very important thing in this kind of packed bed is that to know how the water is distributed across the cross section of this object, of this packed bed column. And the only way one can find out this radial distribution across the cross section is using the tomographic technique. And BRC has developed one process tomography system using cesium-137 source and detector. This is here the arrangement. This is arrangement is mounted here on the periphery of this column, and there is source. Here is a source detector, and this rotates like this, and one can get the profiles and then reconstruct the images like this. So you can see that there are various, these are the 4 different images at 4 different process conditions. You can see here where the blue color is there, it means there is a less water, and where there is a red color is there it is a more water. So one can find out the using tomographic technique, one can find out the distribution of water across the cross section of this catalytic column. So this is called the process tomography. Now another application of the last application of which we'll be discussing today is the nucleonic gauges. Actually, nucleonic gauges are measuring and analysis instruments exploiting the interaction between ionizing radiation and the matter. They all are, as I told you in the beginning, that all these field source applications are based on the attenuation or the interaction of the radiation with the matter. And a nucleonic gauge is nothing but it is a device which consists of a radiation source, a detector, and with the associated electronics. And these nucleonic gauges are very commonly used in industry to control and improve the product quality by optimizing the processes, saving the energy and the material. And there are a number of advantages of these nucleonic gauges. They are online measurements in real time. One can do online measurements in real time. They are contactless and non-destructive. No maintenance is required. Once you install them in the plant, they can be used for years altogether till the radioactive source is decayed or comes to certain level. No effect on environmental, no effect of environmental factors, whether it is whether there is any wind is there, or whether it is a sunny weather or it is a rainy season, or any type of environmental factors, they do not affect. While in case of some conventional gauges, these the environmental factors play an important role. Data obtained usually are obtained over a large material quantity. In conventional gauges, actually there are not actually conventional gauges, but in conventional techniques, they are used in a very small scale, and or maybe in the laboratory. They cannot be used in the actual field, in the actual plant. And these can be used in a very harsh environment. They can be used at high temperature and high pressure. So these are, because of these advantages, the nucleonic gauges are very commonly used in industry. Now let us see what are the different kind of gauges used in industry. There are the label gauges, there are the thickness gauges to measure the thickness of material. There are density gauges to measure the density of material flowing inside any pipeline. There's a quantity of material in some cases, like in case of a wear or a conveyor belt. If one wants to measure how much quantity is being transported at any particular time, one can find out the quantity. Then coal ash monitor, what is the one can find out the ash content in a coal. using this nucleonic gauges. Then the moisture in the soil, one can measure using the soil moisture gauge, then sediment concentration gauge, and then there are the logging tools. And you can see that here they are the different sources used for the different gauges. You can see that the paper thickness, for measuring the thickness of the paper in paper industry, the sources which are used are basically beta sources. They are the krypton 85, strontium 90, promethium 147, and thallium 204. So these are all beta sources which are used for the in a thickness gauge to measure the thickness of the paper in paper industry. In case of the metallic layer thickness, like in case of to measure the foil of a thickness of a aluminum foil or a very thin thin metallic sheets, low gamma sources like americium 241, cesium 137, cobalt 60, they are used for measurement of the metallic measurement of thickness of the metallic sheets in metal industry. Then the liquid density is measured using cesium 137 source. Liquid labels, in liquid label gauges we use cesium 137 and cobalt 60 sources. Then soil density moisture, we use cesium 137. Again, soil moisture, we use neutron sources like americium, beryllium, or californium 252. Suspended sediment concentration. If one wants to measure the concentration of the sediments in a water column, a cadmium 108 or americium 241, the low gamma energy sources are used. Coal concentration. For that, we use the two sources. To find out the content of ash in a coal, we use cesium 137 and americium 240. These are dual sources. One has to use the dual sources in that case. And in the multi-phase flow meter, again, cesium 137 and americium 241 sources are used. So you can see that these are the sources used in these different gauges. And all these gauges which are just mentioned here, they are all commercially available. And in our Department of Atomic Energies Institute, a public sector company called Electronics Corporation of India, they also make a various kind of the nucleonic gauges. And in addition to this, there are many private companies, in national or international companies, which supply these different type of gauges. Now you can see here, there are the principle of the nucleonic gauges. You can see that nucleonic gauges are either based on the transmission intensity or the transmission gauge. Means here you have the radioactive source, on the other side you have a detector, and you are measuring the intensity of the transmitted gamma rays. Here is the specimen in between, and the radiation which is passing through this material or this object or specimen, they are measured. So this kind of gauges based on this are called the transmission gauge. Now here another principle of nucleonic gauges is the principle of backscattering technique. You can see that here is a radiation source. Radiations are made to fall on the surface of this specimen, and the backscattered radiation are measured. So you can see that the source and detector, they are on the same side of the specimen. But in the transmission gauges, the source is on one side and the detector is exactly on the opposite side in the same plane. So the main advantage of the backscatter gauges is that if in some cases, if you do not have the access to on the other side of the object, one can use the backscatter. So this is the principle of the backscatter gauges. This is the principle of dual energy gamma ray transmission gauge, and which I already told you that this type of gauges are used to estimate the quantity of S in coal. And this is a conveyor belt here, and this is the material, this is the coal being transported in this conveyor. And you can see that here is a collimator where you have two different kind of sources mounted inside this collimator. One is the americium 241, and other source is the barium 133. It could be, in some cases, it could be cesium 137. So here, these are the two different sources, and you can see that this is again this law of attenuation of the radiation. I is equal to I0 e to the power minus rho mu x. So if you apply this equation for two different sources of or this material, you will get a two different equation. And then taking the ratio of these two equations, one can find out what is the quantity of the S in the coal. So this is the principle of nucleonic gauges, dual energy gamma ray transmission gauge. Again, there are some gauges which are based on the X-ray fluorescence techniques. You have a primary source of X-ray, this, and you have a specimen here, and there is a coating here on this. And if one wants to see what is the, one wants to whether characterize this coating, what are the different elements there, or one wants to see what is the thickness of this coating, this kind of fluorescence gauges are used. So here in this, the principle of fluorescence gauges is you have a source of X-ray, which is called the primary sources, primary source of X-rays. The X-rays from this primary source fall on this coating or on this material, and they are scattered back here, and there is a detector here, and one can measure the spectrum. So the intensity of the secondary radiation, these are the secondaries, the radiations which are emitted from the coating material or from this specimen. And the intensity of the secondary X-rays are characteristic of the coatings material, and their intensity is the measure of the coatings thickness. So there you will get a different peaks here, and the intensity of these peaks can be correlated with the thickness of the material. So these are the principle of the various gauges here. This is a label gauge here used in industry. You can see a radiation source here and a detector here. And if you fill the process material in this container, so here when this you fill this process material, when the process material will reach up to this location, there will be suddenly the intensity of the radiation on the detector will fall, and it will give you an indicator that now this is the label. This is the label, and one should not fill up beyond that label or things like that. This is a continuous type of label gauge which is used in industry. You have a radiation source here, and then you have a fan beam sort of this thing, and you have a detector here. And these radiations continuously fall when there is a when there is a very less quantity of the material, maximum radiation will be falling on this detector, and the intensity of the radiation will be quite high. But as the this container gets filled with this process material, the intensity of the radiation will decrease, and there is a calibration actually. If this is the intensity, this much will be the label of this. There is there is already a calibration is available, and from this data, one can find out the label of the liquid in this container. You can see that these are the schematic of the gauges which are used in industry. This is a discrete label gauge, and this is a continuous label gauge. Now there's a neutron backscatter gauge for the level or interface measurement. As I told you, the principle of the backscatter measurement, you have a container here, the large container in a petroleum industry. And these containers have the diameter of 5 meter, 10 meter, 20 meter, 30 meter, and the transmission gauges cannot be used for the level measurement. In these cases, the neutron source, neutron level gauges are used to find out the levels as well as the interface. If you have a tank like this, which are generally found in the petroleum industry, this will contain, in the bottom it will contain the sludge, then it will contain the water, then the organic liquid, and then vapor. So if you scan this like from top to bottom, you will find that when there is a vapor, there is a very less intensity of the backscattered radiation. So intensity of backscatter radiation is very less because it is empty. Then there is a organic material, and organic material contains a lot of hydrogen, and the neutrons, the mass of the neutron and the mass of the hydrogenous material or the hydrogen atom is almost the same. So there will be the backscattering will be more, and then backscatter here you can see the intensity of the backscattered radiation will increase here. This is the intensity of that. Now, if you come down, then you have the water here. In the water is nothing but it is a totally, it contains the hydrogen atom. And here the neutron and hydrogen atom has almost the same mass. So there will be, the backscattering will be maximum. And you can see here is the intensity of the backscattering radiation when there is a water in between. And then there is a sludge at the bottom, and you can see. So one can find out the interface of the different materials, and this kind of techniques is very commonly used in the petroleum industry for finding out the interface gauge. Now there is a density gauge here. You can see that this is the density gauge, and almost all the gauges, there are a lot of gauges used in industry. You can see here there is a source here, and there is a detector here, and this is the pipe here, and inside this pipe there will be process material whose density is needed to be estimated, and one can find out the density of the material using this equation: I is equal to I0 e to the power minus rho density and x. So x, we know what is the thickness of this pipe here, and we know what is the mass absorption coefficient of this source for that material. It is known from the literature. I is known, and I0 is also known. So one can find out the density. But there are various kind of density gauges which are used in industry, different configuration. If you want to measure density inside any vessel, you can have this kind of gauges. There are sources in one rod and the detectors in another rod. These are two rods here, and this is dipped inside this container, and density at the different levels can be measured. This is the thickness gauge which is used in the aluminum industry to find out the thickness of the aluminum sheets here. You can see one gauge on this side, other gauge on this side. So there are two gauges to control and measure the thickness of this. This is as I told you that in coal industry, dual energy gamma ray transmission gauges are used. So this is the gauge, and here in between there will be conveyor. This will be mounted on the conveyor, and the conveyor will be passing through this, and one can easily find out what is the content of the ash in the coal, or what is the quantity of the total coal being transported in the that conveyor. And that is why they are also called sometimes belt weigher. This kind of gauges are also called belt weigher. Now I think this is the last slide of this lecture. You see, there are various gauges, as I told you that, and if you see that in worldwide, in United States, more than 1 lakh nucleonic gauges are currently being used in industry. In the European Union, there are 50,000 nucleonic gauges are being used. In China, again, more than 50,000 gauges. So total worldwide, there will be about 2.5 lakhs gauges being used for the different purposes. And in India, we have around 7,559. This is a very latest, just 1 month back, 1 month old information obtained from Atomic Energy Regulatory Board. They total gauges, nucleonic gauges used in industry are 7,559, and they are used in the 1,119 different industrial installation all over the India. And if you see the distribution of these gauges, you see maximum are the label gauges. 41% of the gauges used in Indian industry are the label gauges. 22 are the thickness gauges. 2% gauges are the XRF or X-ray fluorescence gauges. 4% are the moisture gauges, and 31% are the density. So density, label, and thickness, these are the very commonly used gauges. So in summary, I would like to say that, BARC or Board of Radiation and Isotope Technology, they have all the infrastructure to carry out these kind of sealed source applications in industry. And presently, I will say that the technology, these techniques are used only at a very modest scale. So there is a very strong need to create that awareness and to make these techniques popularized. The level of application is growing, but it's still not commensurate with the size of the Indian industry. Indian industry is very, very big industry. And we expect that there has to be this more growth of more and more sealed source applications will be used in Indian industry. And only a few industries are very well aware of these techniques. Again, and that is the reason that there is a very slow growth. The transport and use of radioisotopes in India is well regulated and supervised by Atomic Energy Regulatory Board. And the amount of radioactivity which is used in all these applications is very small. It varies from 1 millicurie to few millicurie in most of the sealed source application, except in a few cases like where radiography, sometimes we have to use a high amount of activity. But those, in that case, then those radiographic services are carried out inside a special enclosures. And the Indian industry has been enormously benefited from the application of these techniques. So with this, I conclude my lecture, and thank you very much for your attention.